Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
Thank you again for joining me on this Thursday webinar. My name is Catherine Beltran, and I am one of the trainers here at Redtail Technology. Today's going to be a little different, though. Today we're actually going to focus more so on a product, and specifically that is our email. So a little bit of a twist here for this Thursday to start off in December. But in here, again, we're going to go over that product overview of email. So I'm going to start off actually with, if I can click on here, start off with our PowerPoint portion, and then I'll kind of toggle into our actual email itself. And then at the end of it, we'll actually wrap up with the CRM. But to start off, what exactly is archiving? And archiving itself, it's that process of capturing and storing email correspondences to store in a kind of like a tamper-proof location. So it's archiving, it's capturing those email correspondences. And the beauty of having it with Redtail is that it actually links up and displays within the CRM contact record specifically. So if there's any kind of emails you've been kind of sending back and forth with one of those clients who just emails you at 4:59 on a Friday or 8 a.m. on Saturday, one of those, anything that you have with that, if you have that Redtail in here, it is going to go ahead and actually link up within our CRM contact record. But to start it off, we actually have two forms of archiving specifically. It's email hosting and email archiving. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to dive into the email hosting portion, and then we'll hop into email archiving. Now, email hosting specifically, what it actually is that this is going to migrate your actual email service to Redtail. Now, I know this might not be an option for everyone here. I know there's some limitations when it comes to broker-dealer restrictions and or requirements, or it could just be, in particular, your hosting setup. So this might not be an option for you, but if it is, definitely it's a great option for you to have. If you cannot have us host it, that's when archiving can come in. And again, I'll talk with great detail on that in just a moment. But if you can do the email hosting with us, it's pretty great for us in here because like any other Redtail service that you have, you're going to get our support team to help you with any questions you might have or any problems that might be popping up or confusions that revolve around our email product. And you also have the option of using our Zimbra webmail. Now, I know there's a lot of Outlook users out there, and I understand definitely it's a great product. You can still definitely use Outlook, but Zimbra is an option for free for everyone here. But the one thing that we always like to point out is that you do have to have your own domain for it. So definitely you get those set up here. We'll get the email hosting in here. But again, like I said, I know there's some restrictions when it comes to that. But if you can't have it, what we'll actually do is we'll actually hop into our Zimbra webmail itself, and then we'll actually kind of dive deeper into what it looks like. But I am going to give you a heads up. By no means is it anything too unique. Just kidding. There it is. It is like any other email source that you have. You're going to start off. It's not going to look too extreme, too different here. You'll have all your different mail folders over here on the side, and you'll have those different options of turning inbox. Now, if you're like me and you're extremely organized on how you like your emails to come in, I like to make sure that all my travel is over in one folder, all my trial emails, all my particular things. I like to have folders. You can always come over here and have those different options. So it really is like any other one. By default, you have those inboxes, sent, draft, junk, trash, but you can always expand on them as well. To send a new email, it's not like, and it's difficult to pick here. You're going to pick on new message here to compose a new email, and it is going to look like any other email host you might have used before. Now, coming back, I do want to actually point out one particular thing in terms of like when you first log in. Over here on the right-hand side, you have this option of view. So this is kind of just those different options in terms of like how you want it to come in, how you want it to be like per conversation versus per message. This is just one of those items that you can actually pick off from this particular field. Now, before I actually hop into preferences, I do want to put kind of like this little caveat, because there tends to be this confusion that I hear frequently in terms of the contacts, calendar, and tasks tab. Now, a lot of people think that if I add a contact in here or I add a particular event into the Zimbra calendar, that it actually is talking about the Redtail calendar. And that's actually not the case. They're two totally separate beings. The contacts, calendar, and tasks, these are specifically with the Zimbra platform that is not the actual Redtail CRM. And I know I get that question a lot is, hey, I accepted something, I put it on here, why is it not in my Redtail CRM? I'm like, well, they're actually two separate calendars. So just the easiest way of thinking of it, these are their own living, breathing items in itself. So just keep that in mind. They are not immediately directly connected to the Redtail CRM. You definitely can do that as like something you can do to connect them, but by default, it's not immediately that, hey, this is that same calendar or those same contacts. So I do want to just make sure I made that clear because I know there is that confusion I get quite a bit in terms of questions. Now hopping over, I am going to come on back to preferences because there are some pretty big items that I do want to make sure that we make it kind of known. In terms of preferences, you'll go ahead and start off with your general items here. So you can always change just how you like things to look, time zones, anything like that is going to be in your general item. As far as accounts, if you have like another email perhaps that you want to have it all stored in one item, you can actually add in another account here so that way you're not having to toggle back and forth between everything. Just have it as a one-stop shop type of item. Below that, we actually have those different options for mail in terms of displaying or how you want to receive them. This is actually one of those items like if you want to get like the read receipts, you'll actually come on over here under the mail folder, and that's why you'll have that option. One thing that's actually under here is the spam mail. So I don't know about you, but I feel like especially around this time of year, I always get a ridiculous amount of spam. And you can actually come in here and put those specific messages that you want or those specific addresses that you want blocked. Same with maybe you do have some of those services that they always sign up like, hey, if you come here at this time, you get this deal type of thing. If you do want to allow that, you can always pick those allow as well. So I do always want to point that out because I know if you're anything like me, you get those emails and you're just like, again, another one. You can definitely block that on this page as well. Coming down below that, we have our filters here. So this is exactly how it sounds. You can come in here and pick those filters, but this is going to be on the server level versus if you do go ahead and have filters within like Outlook or even like if you're like me, I actually turn on my Mac email. If you even have that, you can set this up on that server level. That way they go to the correct folders and everything like that. Below this, these are kind of my MVPs of preference per se, and that's our signatures and our out of office. So definitely, I think this was the very first thing I set up when I had this email set up, and that was to set up my signatures so that way everyone knew exactly my contact and all that good portion right in here. And then same with those out of offices. Definitely make sure you come in here, set up those items in here. Just remember to save it, of course. Nothing's worse than you type out a novel and then completely forget to save it. So this is, again, pretty obvious here. Set up those out of offices for when you might be on vacation or maybe even if you have limited access, like when you're at a conference or you're traveling and you're just like, okay, there's no way I'm getting to it right now. This will set those up for you. Coming right below that is our trusted addresses here. And I know there tends to be a little confusion with this as well. This is not something that's like directly connected with spam. This actually has to deal with more of those messages that might have a lot of content that needs to be downloaded. If you do have those, usually it's popular with like newsletters or anyone that has like a lot of images that are in their actual files. Anything like that, if we know that we can trust that, hey, this is going to be a reliable source, it can go ahead and download those before basically just saying like, hey, we know this source, it's good to go for it, download it, have at it. Coming below that is our contacts option. Again, this is strictly for the Zimbra contacts here, not your Redtail CRM. And then same with your calendar, strictly this calendar for Zimbra and not your Redtail CRM. I'm going to stress that. But these are those particular settings for contacts and calendar. Right below that is our sharing. It's actually the last item I'm going to cover on this particular section. But if you have anything that you're like, okay, I really need to share a particular folder, share my mail folder with maybe an assistant, or maybe just another person that's in your office, so whatever the case may be. This is literally sharing that particular folder with those other users that you have set up. So that way you don't have to like keep forwarding everything, or, being like, okay, here's this contact. You can actually just go ahead and share that item with those other users. So that is pretty much exactly what it looks like in here. Again, it's nothing in terms of anything extreme. We didn't reinvent the items in here. So it's really user-friendly. It's really easy to use. And when you sign up with the email hosting, this is something that is available for everyone. Again, you don't have to have Outlook, you don't have to have Macmail, you don't have to use any other one. You can definitely just use this Zimbra mail. I use this when I'm on the road. I just log into the internet, pop up in my Zimbra account, open in my email, and I see everything on file. So I don't have to use any other app if I don't want to. This is, again, and this is available for anyone who wants to use that hosting. Now, in terms of cost for email and archiving, because they're kind of similar in this instance, is that it is $8 per the actual email user itself. And again, that's for hosting and archiving, so there's no difference in that one. But again, if you can't host, again, due to broker-dealer restrictions, or even just how particular hosting might be set up for you in your office, that is where archiving actually can come in. So at this point, I'm going to hop on back here and toggle on next to actual email archiving. So again, this one, very similar in terms of what it can do, and what that is actually linking emails to the CRM itself. But with this one is that it's actually going to still maintain the status quo of what you have with your email hosting. So I know very commonly broker-dealers have a specific item they have to use so that they can also kind of track what has been sent. This is basically just going to allow it so that way your emails that you send with your clients, and then anything that you receive from them, will go into the Redtail CRM. So very similar in terms of that linking, just very different in terms of you won't really have to worry about Zimbra. You don't have to worry about setting everything up with the hosting. It's just, this is strictly linking it with that CRM option that you have. So this is an option for everyone here. Now, as far as actual email archiving goes, actually, let me go back here. I'm going to actually hop into the CRM itself to see that you can actually see what it looks like. So let's get on back over here. And I'm going to hop over onto our dashboard now. And I'm actually going to start off on the Today page. So if you've ever kind of looked at the top, and if you don't have the emails right now, you've clicked in here, it was probably a blank page, and you're like, well, this is pointless. It is if you don't have those emails archived or hosting set up. But with this, if you have this up here, you're going to have basically like those stats right at the top, but then you're going to have these most recent emails that have been corresponding with any clients that you have within the CRM. You can always come over here and filter it out, so that way if there's a specific domain or even a specific contact from this page, again, this is the most recent though, but where I really find like kind of that meat and potatoes per se of our emailing is actually on an individual client. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pop on up into my recently viewed here, and I'm going to come on down to my very best here, good old Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. So we're on his individual client record here now. Before I actually show where it's going to store in the email, I do want to kind of go over some like housekeeping tips just to make sure it's perfectly clear on how it actually works and how it links. And that's with the actual email that's on file. So if you don't have the email that you want stored, so basically any correspondences I've had with this particular email over here, if I don't have this on file, there's no way for it to know that this is supposed to link up. Better way to kind of phrase that, think of it this way. In the background, we've got something running here, like a service running, that's trying to match up a name that we have with the emails and combine them so they're all together. If that email never exists, there's no match to be found. So that's why you definitely, can't stress that enough, make sure you have the email that you want to archive within that contact card. Now, the next kind of housekeeping tip I always want to go over, and this actually is something that has changed most recently, and that is, what if I've got a client, they've been my client forever, I've been sending emails with them forever, but now they just changed their email. They no longer use that old one. What do I do about that? The good news is if they change their email, so in like this instance, maybe this work email was the one we always used, and now he wants us to use this home one. If that's the case, we used to say, hey, go ahead and update this title to archive, do not use. The good news is you no longer have to do that. You can actually come on over here to the action icon just to the right of the email that is the old email. You'll click on that action icon, and then right underneath that primary says archive email. So now when you actually click on this archive email, you'll get this pop up just to make sure, because we don't want to accidentally archive something that's still current. And you'll get something that says you're about to archive this email, which will remove primary and preferred flags. So that's another thing to also bring up. You don't have to go in, edit the email, take off those primary and preferred. It's going to go ahead and do that for you. All you just have to do is click that archive email. So I'm actually not going to archive that one. I'm going to keep that on file just because I know that one's still a good one for us here. But again, anything that you have that you know you're going to spend those correspondences, go ahead and make sure it's in this contact card, because again, that's what's actually going to link up those emails to the individual contact. So if that email address is on file, we're looking at Batman here. Where do you actually go to see those emails? And that's actually on the left-hand side. Come on over here to this left navigation menu until you see email history. So it's right before more, you'll click email history. So in here, I'm gonna let it load for a sec. There we go. We've got those email histories. Now ours, we spend quite a bit of time talking about contributions. Of course, ours is always a test here, but a couple things I always wanna point out when you do have it linked with this email history, you have this option over here, filter, exactly like we did with the Today page. But the difference is maybe you want to have a specific date range. So maybe you want to know all those emails you sent between the beginning of a month to the end of the month. You can actually do that search range. Or maybe there's something in particular. You're like, oh God, I know I've talked to them about this. Where is that email? You can actually go ahead and search by that subject as well. So definitely filter. If it can make your life easier, definitely have that choice. But just know that is something you can definitely do for that particular option. Another thing I want to point out is actually with that action icon just to the left of the subject, you actually get two options. The first one is view. So if you actually click on this, it's going to just create a pop-up of that actual email. You can actually do the exact same thing if you actually just click on the subject itself. So either or, it's just going to be a matter of preference on what you prefer. There's no wrong way, of course, just whatever is better for you. And the second option with that action icon is actually download original. So if you might be like me, where I'm just notoriously click happy, and I'm just like, whoops, delete, 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 and then I'm like, great, now I've lost that email. Don't worry, it's going to come back and find you can always download that original. If you're, again, just don't be click hacky like me, download that original though is that option. So that is that other item. Again, to get there, come to the contact record itself. I'll kind of come back here just to recap, and then come on down to email history on the left. And again, I can't stress this enough. Just make sure whatever emails you are trying to actually archive, that email address is on file. If we don't have that particular item, those puzzle pieces just won't match because we're missing a piece type of thing. So that's actually the couple of things I wanted to point out with that contact record. The other item you also do have, not as commonly used, of course, unless there's something particularly you need, but there is also an email report as well. You only have the one option, but if you did want to go ahead and run that email report, you do have that in here. And just like any other report that we have that option to filter over here, and you also have the option to export that. Now, last thing here, it's actually going to be a pretty nice topic short here, but want to make sure we set you up for success. The last thing I want to talk about is actually viewing the emails. So I just showed you where it's at in the contact record, but how we set you up might actually change user per user. And what I'm kind of saying here is actually we have two different types of viewing options, and that's if you're an email admin or if you are a non-email admin. By default, only the database owner is an email admin. Everyone else that's part of a user of that CRM is going to be a non-email admin, again, by default. What are the differences between the two? So an email admin has the ability to see literally every email that has to deal with that particular contact. And actually, I'm going to kind of come back here for a second. So any email, whether I sent it, Tucker sent it, one of my coworkers sent it, if I have admin rights, I'm going to be able to see that in that email history. Same with any kind of communication that Batman might have sent. If I am a non-admin user for email, you are only going to see what you yourself have sent or received. So it's literally an individual. So email admin, think of that as the person who can see the world. The ones who are non-admin, very narrow, just yourself type of thing. Now, again, like I said, by default, only the database owner is going to have that email admin. Everyone else by default is a non-admin. You can definitely change that though, because I understand it's definitely important if we can share that option. That way, maybe you have a couple other people in the office who also should have that, or maybe even everyone. It's really up to you. But if that is something that we're like, okay, I need to make sure that these two other people have email admin access, no worries. Just reach out to our support. We'll get that request to go through, and then we'll get those list of users that you would like to have that option. So definitely, if there's anyone that you can think of immediately, write their name down before you forget about it. And again, that's the email admin itself.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.